The definition for the word bust can be found in the dictionary as someone who is a complete failure. So, is it too late to call Treylon Burks a bust? Come on, let's have a little discussion after the intro. Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Bonafide, and this is Section 240, the channel all about the Tennessee Titans, but from a fan's perspective. So let me tell you a little story before we get into this. The day was April the 28th, 2022, and I was in Tallahassee. I was taking my daughter back to the greatest HBCU in the land, that is Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, and I was taking her back to get ready to go back for the new semester. Shout out to them Rattlers. Now, we're getting some things ready for her dorm. And, we're in the parking lot. And then all of a sudden, an underage kid that's driving a rental car that she shouldn't be driving, basically almost rips the door off my Scat Pack. And yeah, as you can imagine, I was heated, absolutely heated at that thing. Because I had just gotten my car back from somebody hitting the other door. So so you could, it was a bad day on that one. So, for the rest of the trip, I had to go all Dukes of Hazzard getting into my passenger seat until I could get the door fixed. But once we got settled, we headed for dinner. Now, I told you that story because that wasn't the worst thing that happened to me on that day. Because when we got to where we were going to go eat, I remembered that it was also time for the draft, and we were going to be picking around about that time. So I wanted to tune in. And before I could even get out of the car, this happened.
What's going on here? This is not them.
Why are they picking right now? Well, our good buddy Ian Rappaport always just giving us the details.
Let's go.
How about this trade that just went down?
Wow, we thought it was gonna be Deebo Samuel. Turns out AJ Brown stole the show here.
Yeah, the Eagles getting AJ Brown.
Wow.
Tennessee, the 18th overall pick, not to mention a third rounder, which is 101 overall. You're excited, Cynthia.
First of all, okay, Eagles, I see you. I see what you're doing here, Eagles. That's incredible. If AJ Brown didn't want to be there and they didn't want to pay him there, then they, sunk costs, right? They got to figure it out, and now they can create their draft strategy to accommodate. That is a huge loss. Let me be clear. AJ Brown, that is not an easy thing to replace, or I think Rapes needs to take a second here. He clearly, that's quite a trade, but it's fun for the rest of us. Maybe not for Mike Vrabel, though.
Yeah.
As you could expect, as a diehard Titans fan, I went through a range of emotions. I was pissed. I was angry. I was upset. I was pissed. I was mad. I was upset. I was angry. You kind of understand how I was feeling at that particular moment. So, because AJ Brown was the best wide receiver that the Tennessee Titans have ever had. I don't care who Pickens, whatever, he was on the trajectory. He was headed that way, where at one day when I'm older and my kids were older, I was going to say, AJ Brown, he's in the Ring of Honor out there at the new stadium in Nashville. But guess what? That was it. But enough of that story. So we got rid of AJ Brown. We traded him. And with the pick that we got for AJ Brown, which was the 18th overall, we used that to select Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. Now, oddly enough, which is crazy, a few little analysts for the draft kind of compared Burks to Brown and Deebo Samuel, saying he had the kind of same physical play style. He was the same kind of body style, the run after the catch ability, all of that good jazz, all the things that we had already in a proven AJ Brown, we were going to get out of this this rookie. Now, on the other side, there were some analysts that said, hey, he's a little raw, and that was based off of what he did at Arkansas. He wasn't like a a route runner or someone that was with the precision route. He was more like a playmaker. Hey, like, let me get the ball in open space. Let me show you what I can do. So they, kind of backed away from him because he wasn't what you consider a receiver with a nuanced route tree, because they run the whole route tree with efficiency. So it was apparent that replacing Brown with Burks was the plan. And that was going to be a tall task because you knew what you had with A.J. Brown. You had a dynamic wide receiver who was coming on his own that could affect the game. And now we have Treylon Burks. Now, like I said, he looked the part. So, some of the pain resided after you once you just inundate yourself as a fan with positive reports, you'll start to believe those. And guess what this fan did? I started reading everything positive on Treylon Burks, even though in the back of my mind I was still pissed at John Robinson and Mike Vrabel a little bit, but that's another story for another day, at letting A.J. Brown just go for roughly what we got was the 18th pick and the 103rd pick, and we didn't even use that pick. So yeah, but we trying to work with it here, okay? So let's fast forward to training camp, and he looked the part. Now, don't get me wrong. He was up there, had big hands, physical things like that. But the thing about it is, we didn't see enough of him because it was almost like every day he was, from mini camp to OTAs to actual training camp, he was dealing with like this asthma thing and the Nashville heat. He just wasn't on the field. I don't even think he played. I think he played, if he did play in the preseason, it was sparingly. We either saw him, it was almost like every time we heard Treylon Burks' name that first season he was going inside the facility, he was working with a trainer, or Mike Vrabel said you're trying to get him acclimated to the thing. So, it didn't start off great. And then when the season began, what we didn't see, now I will say with this caveat, what we didn't see and what was unfair to him was an A.J. Brown replacement, because A.J. was in Philly, and to quote Ice Cube, he was cooking wide receivers. He was freaking them cats every way like MJ. All right, you understand me? A.J. Brown was being A.J. Brown, and Treylon Burks was struggling to stay on the actual playing field. Like, he went to IR with a foot injury, and he missed weeks 5 through 9. Then he came back, and that week 11 game against the Packers was like, okay, it was like, okay, we might have a little something here. I mean, he had 7 catches. He had 111 yards. You remember that catch he had over there, but he did, you too small. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe it clicked for him. And then he followed that up. We played the Bengals. He had a 4-catch, 70-yard game. So I was like, okay, the light bulb has cling, then clicked on for Treylon Burks. But let me tell you something. For all the good that Treylon was doing in these games that he came back from injury, there was one game looming on the schedule. And it was that way since the day of the draft. It was the Eagles versus the Titans. And oh my God, it was a massacre. Ain't no other way to put it. A.J. Brown was cooking that game. Do you understand me? That boy had 8 catches for 119 yards and not 1 touchdown. He had 2 of them things. Now, meanwhile, on the other side, because it doesn't matter if it's fair or not, it's what was going to happen. You're going to get compared to the player that you replaced. And Burks, now, granted, he did hold on to a tough catch for a touchdown, but he was immediately up out of the game because he had a concussion on an illegal hit. So I ain't really trying to blame him for that. But that was it. and if it wasn't apparent then, if it wasn't apparent to you before, it was apparent right then and there that we lost this trade. Oh man, we lost the trade bad. Because AJ would go on to the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. And meanwhile, we fired John Robinson. We done fired Todd Downing. We got to hire a new GM. And we lose 5 of the next 5 games. And guess what? Treylon Burks missed 2 of those games because he had that concussion. And we ended up with the 11th pick in the 2023 draft. So let's jump to 2023. We here now, this year. We got a new GM. We got a new OC. We was able somehow to pick up DeAndre Hopkins and to be the 1A to the 1B for Treylon Burks. And it looked like we were going to get that wide receiver 1-2 punch. We were about to get some weapons at the wide receiver position. So we thought. Because after he was injured in joint practices with the Vikings on a deep pass, he didn't play in the preseason, which most of the stars didn't play, but he didn't play at all. But he didn't miss time. He came back healthy. We saw the little beat reports of him jumping up, making these one-hand catches when he came back from the injury. So we back on schedule, baby. Back on schedule. New season start. So we thought, because he had a big day against the Chargers. He had 3 catches in the 76 yards, and he had that 70-yard bomb. But his 2023 has just been like, yeah. The kids these days say his 2023 so far has been mid, real mid. And I think mid is being nice because he just missed the last 3 games. Missed the last 3 games, and we don't even really know if he's gonna be ready when we come back from the bye to play the Falcons. So, we come all the way back. So you got all that history, all this stuff, and we're back to this question. Is it too soon to call Treylon Burks a bust? Now, you got all the history. I done gave you pretty much a good synopsis of what he's done for us that far. Now, we know Treylon was never going to be a 1-for-1 replacement for A.J. Brown, especially given the offense that we run behind Derrick Henry. But even with that knowledge, I'm going to say, unless Treylon Burks comes back and is just like Randy Moss, he trending right into bust land. I'm talking about he got a first-class ticket to Bustopia because it ain't looking good for my boy. All right? Now, look. We gonna talk a little bit. Let's put some color around this discussion right here. Now, let's look at how some of the wide receivers that were drafted in that same draft, some before him and some after him, fared. Meaning that some of these wide receivers we didn't have a chance to get because we couldn't trade up and we couldn't do anything. Maybe could have, I don't know. But then some of these wide receivers were available when he was available. So now, Burks' numbers in 2023 was he played 11 games. He had 33 receptions and 444 yards and 1 touchdown. Those were his numbers. Now, all right, the quarterbacks that he played with. He played with Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill and Josh Dobbs in all 3 of those games. We're not saying those are elite quarterbacks, but let's look at his compatriots. All right, so we're gonna start off with the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Garrett Wilson. He played in all 17 games. He had 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. And his quarterbacks for that entire season were Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Okay? Chris Olave picked 11th overall. He played in 15 games. He had 72 receptions for 1,042 yards and 4 TDs. And his quarterback was Andy Dalton. Yes, the Red Rifle. Okay? Christian Watson arguably had the best quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, but he played in 14 games. He was drafted 34th overall. So Treylon was drafted before him, and he had 41 catches, 611 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Okay? So we're looking, okay, well, who else? Jahan Dotson, 16th overall. Could have been in play for us if he, hadn't been picked up or we traded up a couple spots. Played in 12 games, had 35 receptions for 523 yards and 7 touchdowns. And now, wait a minute. Who was his quarterbacks? He had Wentz. He had Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, and Sam Howell, who was a rookie. So, and then we get to the last one. This is the last one. I ain't gonna go through our whole class. But Drake London, he was drafted 8th overall. Probably couldn't have gotten him with opposition, but let's talk about it. Played in 15 games, 72 receptions, 866 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And you'd be like, why you bring Drake London here? We couldn't have got, because his quarterback was Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. Yes, that Marcus Mariota was throwing the ball to Drake London. So when you look at this, there really ain't no excuse for this lackluster performance we got from Treylon Burks. Other wide receivers dealt with injury. Other wide receivers had bad quarterback play, but they still were able to produce and be a factor for the team. Like when you draft a wide receiver that high, remember we drafted Corey Davis 5th a couple years back and he never panned out. Matter of fact, he out the league now. When you draft a wide receiver in the first round, you expect for them to be an impact on your offense. You are looking for production immediately because they have to, because where they were drafted, they have to be that weapon that they were drafted to be. Now, let me use some military jargon here. When you look at Wilson for the Jets, that boy is a Navy SEAL. That boy was an absolute weapon. He's the offensive rookie of the year. You know, defenses had to account for him, and he had Joe Flacco throwing him the ball. Mike White throwing him the ball sometimes. When you look at Chris Olave, he had the red rifle down there, but he was like a Green Beret. He was in there getting work done silently and deadly, because I don't even think I know what Chris Olave sounds like. I've never heard him talk. And then you got Jahan Dotson. He out there with the Commanders. He was like an Army Ranger. No matter what the mission, it's gonna get done. Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, Sam Howell. I'm going out there to catch the ball and score touchdowns. Meanwhile, we got Treylon Burks, and this dude about to be medically separated from the military because he ain't even worth the draft. One touchdown. Now, again, I said, it's not fair to say he was supposed to be the A.J. Brown replacement, so don't get me wrong. They said we should expect that. John Robinson tried to sell us that whole load of crap that he was going to be the A.J. Brown replacement, but that wasn't realistic. But come here. That man ain't even an NWI replacement. He not replacing the production we getting from Nick Westbrook-Akina. Look, that's right. We getting more production from this Nick Westbrook-Akina than we are the #1 draft pick from 2022. Nick Westbrook-Akina this season has 16 receptions for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ask me what Treylon Burks got. That boy got 6 receptions for 99 yards and 0 TDs. And it ain't like they ain't been trying to get him the ball, because he dropped a ton of balls in that Saints game and a couple of other games. So this can't happen. You know, at some point, you're going to have to rise up to the occasion and be the reliable target. You got to be able to move the chains. You got to make that difficult catch in traffic. You got to be that guy. You got to be that Garrett Wilson. You got to be that Justin Jefferson. You got to be the Jahan Dotson. And at that point, we ain't getting that. We're not. The Tennessee Titans, ain't getting that. So unless something changes, which I really can't see happening, because if you know his history, it ain't looking well for him, that he gonna be labeled a bust. Like I said, he got a first-class plane ticket to Bustopia, okay? All right? And he not gonna live up to that draft position or the hype. And I don't even really care about the hype. I'm just care about the draft position. He ain't gonna live up to it. So don't get me wrong. There's still time for him to turn it around. But he is behind the 8 ball. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if the season keeps going the way we think it is, and he don't make an impact and become that game-changing wide receiver that we've been looking for, that we wanted to pair with DeAndre Hopkins, I believe when we get to this draft, we're gonna be looking for a wide receiver to be that weapon to this offense for whoever the quarterback is gonna be and whoever's gonna be here. But it don't look like it's gonna be Treylon Burks. So, I said all that. We're gonna wrap it up. But before we wrap it up, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think he's a bust? Do you think I'm crazy? Am I being too hasty in my judgment? Drop it in the comment. You all right? But look, we got more videos coming all this week during the bye week and throughout this week. So don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget that once we hit 500 subs, we're gonna kick off our 1K giveaway, man. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And share this to your fellow Titans friends. I want to know what they think about Treylon Burks. Because like I said, there's plenty of room in the section for all of us, baby. All right? Tighten up.